Welcome back to Switch to Linux. This is DistroWars, and today we are going to look at two distributions, both based on Arch. TROMJaro is actually based on Manjaro, and we're also looking at Manjaro. So TROMJaro versus Manjaro. Two Jaros. It's the battle of the Jaros. Someone get us some peanut butter and jelly, because we got a bunch of jars on the field here. But anyway, before we dive on into the video, if you'd like to help support the channel, go ahead and have a look at the links in the description down below. I do have Patreon, patreon.com/TomM, T-O-M-M. And you can also find me over on thinklifemedia.com. That's my own personal support page as well. Of course, there's some links to some social media sites if you use any of those. I pretty much use them just to post videos. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive on in. First, we want to have a look at TROMJaro. Now, TROMJaro is supposedly a trade-free operating system that we looked at here yesterday, and it just caused us to do a little bit of head scratch. Like, it really, at the end of the day, TROMJaro seems like a Manjaro with custom themes that has a bunch of browser extensions on Firefox. So if we head on over to the About page, it actually gives us information about the build at the very bottom, and we can actually come over to here to their GitLab page. We can see the package that it has. Pretty much just some theming on a variety of different things. We're updating a mirror list. We're updating some GDM themes, Calamaris themes. There's a cloud software. There's a grub theme, settings, and Pacman URL handler. There's a GNOME theme, a mirror list settings, a grub theme, Calamaris settings, GNOME settings, and ISO profiles. That is the extent of what has been changed from the system. Now, what it does have going for it is kind of like you have with your GNOME extensions, where you can go on and install extensions from the web browser. These here are just kind of random. It's not anything more than just random stuff. But if you wanted to go ahead and install something, you could just go ahead and click on the button down here and hit the install button. Of course, it won't do anything right here because I'm not actually on the distro right this second. But you click on this guy here and it's going to install the application. Now, it does take a long time. I actually clicked one last night as part of my video, and about 5 minutes later, it still was sitting there stuck on, we're installing Thunderbird now. And do it through Pacman, it'll go a little bit quicker. We'll go ahead and have a look at that as we dig through. Now, of course, we only have one desktop environment. We don't really have a choice, and that is based on GNOME. But it is a pretty nice looking GNOME nonetheless. The other thing I'd like to show you about it is, remembering this is based on Manjaro, which is based on Arch. When we go over to our download, here's how to flash it. There's an image writer for Linux, Rufus, Etcher. There's booting it and testing it. But when we go down to the installation, we have, let's go down and see what we're looking at here. We have a version from 4 months ago. We have a version from 3 months ago. Mind you, this is based on Arch. A 3-month-old Arch install is pretty stinking old. In fact, it failed to update several times. I ended up having to use the mirrors that are inside of the distribution itself, and I think they were actually bouncing back signal up from the moon or whatever. It took an hour to update the system. Now, Manjaro, on the other hand, of course, is certainly a much larger, much more common and popular operating system. This is what TROMJaro is based on, and it's basically an Arch system that holds packages back for a little bit more testing before pushing them out. It does have a little bit of negative in the community that occasionally it will blow itself up. In other words, it will kind of stop working sometimes, particularly if you're running all of the updates in the POMOC GUI instead of running them through the terminal. But if you wanted to go ahead and download Manjaro, you actually have a lot of options. So as far as official ones, we have XFCE, we have Plasma, we have GNOME, we have the Architect, which will allow you to build your own version. And there actually is, inside of the community, there's some community ones. We have Awesome, Beastbomb, Budgie, Cinnamon, i3, Mate, and OpenBox. There's a 32-bit for XFCE. There's ARM for your Pinebook Pro, where you have 2 options there. There's a Raspberry Pi 4, 3 options. Rock Pi 4 and a Rock Pro 64. Never heard of a Rock Pro. A Rock Pi though, that sounds like it's gonna hurt my teeth. I don't want a Rock Pi. That might hurt my teeth. But so you have a lot more options. But we want to have a look at what these guys look like. So we're gonna go ahead and start out with TROMJaro and see what the distribution actually looks like, and then we'll poke around with a few of the different settings and the options that we have within it. So we'll give it just a moment to boot up, and then we'll be back. Okay, so here we are on the desktop. So this is TROMJaro. And what we actually have here is everything about the system is all basically designed to be flat and modern. So if you like material design, you will probably really like this one. There's everything in here from the icons. In fact, they even describe their icons on their website as flat and washed out, which I never thought would be a compliment. I'd be like, I'm looking at this thing, it just looks so flat and washed out, and I'd think that that'd be a negative. But no, apparently flat and washed out's a positive, unless they're promoting negatives on their website. So we'll give them that. If you head on over, everything is inside of these menus down here, which I actually find a little bit annoying, but I mean, it's good to have a little bit of organization, but I do find that everything in menus is actually a little on the annoying side. But that's kind of going to be a matter of preference. So we have, our basic tools. Let's go ahead and look at our system monitor while we're going here, see what it's doing. So it does look like it's using about 700 gigs of memory. 700 gigs. Wow, that's heavy. 700 megabytes of memory there. And CPUs are going. I don't know why CPUs are going so much, but CPUs are sitting there humming at about 30-40%. That's very interesting, actually. We have, as far as sound and video, we have SM, MPV. There's few other tools in there. We do have the full LibreOffice suite installed by default. It's pretty much the only software application outside of your basic operating system things. And so here's the full LibreOffice, and they did give us the full LibreOffice installed there. We have our Firefox. Here's for graphics. So nothing too out of the ordinary. And here is your accessories. So for me, it's a little, let's go ahead and move this guy out of the way. The organization is a little crazy. The theming is actually pretty nice, and I really don't like material design, but I do find that the theming is pretty nice out of the box. It's a little bit unique. Everything's over here. Of course, our close buttons and stuff are over on the... We have a minimize and a close. We don't have a maximize, although we do have the tweak tool installed. But everything else there is all right. Now, let's go ahead and... ooh, I do like their terminal. Nice transparency there. That's pretty nice. Since they're both running a build off of Arch, they're both going to be running all of the latest software once you get it updated. So we're GNOME 3.34.2. Let's see if there's anything else we can spot in there, but it should be pretty basic, pretty normal, run-of-the-mill. Now, the one place where TROMJaro is definitely different is they seem to be, an offshoot of the trade-free movement, which I think is maybe a political movement. I know pretty much nothing else about it. So here, when we actually log into the site, of course, this is where if you are logged into the system here, you can click on the install button, enter your super secret password. That's definitely not 123, and we'll see if this guy actually downloads and installs. So it actually looks like it is downloading stuff. Maybe. It was said it was downloading, but now it's refreshing some details there, and Details? Okay, So it seems like it's actually working this time. It was not working for me yesterday. All right, so again, the only thing that's really different here is we have a variety of extensions already installed. We have uBlock Origin, HTTPS Everywhere, Privacy Badger, all fairly recommended extensions to install according to most people. We do have a video downloader. Some of those are spyware, some of those are not. I don't know anything about this one. We have Open and Sci-Hub, and we have a Wayback Machine so that if you get to a website that's not there, it will go onto the Wayback Machine to grab the latest version or whatever else. So that's an interesting thing. Now let's go back here and focus on, let's see, it looks like that has been installed successfully, so that's good. So it is actually going back now and installing the applications faster than it did yesterday. It didn't seem to want to work. So if you head on over to the apps page, you can come over here and grab things. You can see this website is pretty slow. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. So if I wanted to look for a, let's look for OBS. If I know what I'm kind of looking for, let's see if it finds. So there's OBS, so I can go ahead and install it. So you have the option here to use this install script. It does take a little bit of time. Of course, we have Pamuk up here as well. So if I really wanted to, I could, come over here and probably install something a little bit faster as long as it's in one of the repositories. So there you go. You have that as an option. So other than that, of course, the theming, very much like Apple, everything's up in the toolbar. Other than that, I don't really see a lot of major differences between this and Manjaro. Now, if you like this type of theming, the material design, then for sure, I think it's a fine desktop. I think this is our default wallpaper that comes in out of the box. We do have some theming options as well. Let's go ahead and show you that. Let's go with tweaks. The tweaks tool is installed out of the box. So here we have the options. You do need to make this bigger, I have found. If that's not large, then it will not work right. So here we actually have a variety of colors. So basically all these is different, just different highlight colors basically. So you can kind of see what the highlight colors are looking like. So it is nice in the respect that it does have your basic flat material, modern design. I personally don't like this type of design. That's a very subjective thing, so I'm not going to say it's horrible on that basis alone. But for me, who doesn't like this type of look and appearance, it's not exactly my cup of tea. Does it really bring us anything that's really outstanding from Manjaro? Probably not. If I want a Firefox that has a lot of extensions pre-installed, sure. If I want material theming and design, sure, seems fine. Especially if I want GNOME. Now, if I don't want GNOME, I don't like material design, and I really don't care to have the default Firefox extensions, I don't see any reason to use this distribution as opposed to anything else. But let's go ahead and have a look at GNOME. GNOME. Let's have a look at Manjaro next. Freudian slips there. So let's go ahead and have a look at Manjaro, and we'll be back on that desktop. And here we are on Manjaro. Now, the first thing out of the box is Manjaro gives us a very nice welcome screen. If this is your first time logging in, there's a lot of information, readmes, forums, things like this. We also have GNOME Layouts Manager, where you can actually choose things. Now, this is something that the TROMJaro said they have a lot of customization, but I was not able to find it. You can see that Manjaro actually does have a lot of different things. So here, oh, really? It wants my permission to change that one, but not the first layout change? I don't know. It actually wants to install a GNOME shell. All right, let's go ahead and let it install its thing and see what it does. All right. Transaction successfully finished. That's almost exactly what we had, literally. What was the difference? I mean, okay, we booted on a completely different layout. I don't know what the difference was. Here's a more modern, here's your basic GNOME layout, which is going to be like more of a vanilla GNOME. It's your layout there, and here's more of a Mate type layout. Okay. So this one's closest to what we had out of the box. I think this was at the bottom, like the other one. So I changed the layout. Apparently you don't necessarily, you apparently don't have the option to go back to the original one right out of the box, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, here is the, I really don't like that menu. Wow. Let's just go back to the basic Manjaro one. Let's do that. And reload desktop. So we do have nice options to reload everything right out of the box. So that's good. Let's go ahead and head back home. The other thing is we have the applications right here. Now, Manjaro does give us this application installer. We still do have the same POMAC that we had on the other system as well. But this one here will give you very easily sorted and organized the most common various things. If you want to install Brave, Chromium, Midori, Opera, Firefox is already installed by default. Under email, they have given us Evolution, my favorite. I like that one. Thunderbird and Selfread. I've never played with Selfread before. Manjaro on installation does give you the option of which Office suite that you would like to install. So I went ahead and installed it with LibreOffice simply because that's what TROMJaro did out of the box. You have the option of no Office, Free Office, or LibreOffice. You have other options as well. So there's only Office editors, MS Office, which is, I'm guessing, maybe ICE applications. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to give us. Free Office. Now we have a still and a fresh. The fresh is basically like a rolling version of Office. The still is basically a maintain. So these are all of your most common applications here without having to dig through POMAC for them. All right. We do actually have caffeine up here on the bar. This is very nice. And when I'm running GNOME, I always want to use caffeine because if I'm watching like a YouTube video or something, the desktop will actually go into hibernation mode. I can go ahead and enable caffeine. It prevents my desktop from ever sleeping. And then if I'm stepping away from the computer, I can disable it and let the desktop go into hibernation mode. All right, we have our basic applications. That should be all of them. That's activities. Here's our applications. So you can see here, they go the opposite direction and they don't organize anything. I kind of like what things like Fedora is going to do, where it puts all your system utilities inside of one folder, but leaves everything else out. So this one has the opposite problem of TROMJaro, where it is a total mess in there. And that's actually a big reason why I don't like GNOME. It's just too hard to find stuff. Looking at our system resources, this is running on approximately the same memory, 800 gigabytes. No, 800 megabytes. So about the same, As far as applications out of the box, let's just make any observations here. It doesn't appear as though we have anything major. We do have Steam installed by default. That's something that's new. I think the layouts is our Manjaro layout tool. Yep. So that's our layout tool there. Here's our settings for that. So really, oh, and look at that. We have the option to run desktop icons. That's good. That's actually something I like to use. So, okay. Online accounts, tweak tools, automatic dark theme, Manjaro branding. We can turn that on if we want. Let's go ahead and enter our super secret password. That's definitely not 123. I'm not sure. It's not wanting to turn on, but maybe it's just doing something in the background. Anyway, so our Firefox here is pretty much standard out of the box Firefox, nothing pre-installed. Which is actually kind of my preference. I would prefer to go ahead and harden and install the things that I would like to use personally. I do like the theming in Manjaro quite a bit better. Let's see if the tweaks tool is installed here. It is. And let's see what other theming options that we have inside of this one. So we do have other things as well. Let's go ahead and just make this guy a little bit bigger so that we can hopefully get a bigger application here. So there's Matcha C. There's just a few different options here. So I like the theming in Manjaro better. It's not quite as flat, quite as, quite modern. And really, I think Manjaro has more going for it. It has more user-friendly tools, more of a community behind it. And here's the other option we didn't even mention, maybe earlier in the introduction, but we have a variety of desktop environments to choose from. I'm still not seeing those desktop icons I asked for, so let me go ahead and log out and log back in and see if I have desktop icons when I log back in here. So with that, we'll see if there's anything else to go with here. Let's go here. We also, though, have the option of GNOME or GNOME Classic. Enter my super secret password. That is definitely not 123. And let's see what we get here. Still not having the option for desktop icons. Let's go ahead and turn that off at this point. But we'll see whatever happens. Neither one of those gave us that. So there is Manjaro. So TROMJaro, the derivative of Manjaro, which is supposed to be a trade-free operating system, versus Manjaro. Which one's better? Honestly, unless you specifically wanted the tools in their Firefox or really like material design, I would just go to Manjaro. You have more options, better options. You have more recent ISO images that aren't half broken and you don't have to fight with to get them installed. They do take some extra time for theming options, things like that. And I personally don't like material design. If you do, you might like TROMJaro better in that respect. But really all I see in TROMJaro is an instance of Manjaro GNOME with material design, the ability to install applications from their website, and some extensions in Firefox. I don't specifically see the point of it, but at the same time, it's the Linux world. There's always more projects out there, and who knows? And, I wish the best of the developers and things. Just my thoughts, my opinions. But let me know your thoughts and your opinions in the comments down below.